So, Battlefield Earth is pretty much Scientology's biggest failure. It's based off a story by the Scientology author L. Ron Hubbard. And I'm not going to go any further on that. I don't want anyone to come for me in the night or anything and try and silence me, anything like that. So, let's just talk about the movie. And let me just say, it wasn't that bad is what I thought in the beginning of this movie, because the first 45 minutes actually weren't that bad. It was just pretty coherent plot. It wasn't, it was kind of intriguing with some of the ideas. Uh, Granted, this whole movie is pretty much a watered down mixture of all the popular sci-fi movies at the time. It still was a solid movie. The first 45 minutes, like it wasn't good, definitely wasn't good, but it had me wondering, like, why, what's all the hubbub blue with this movie? What's all the hate? What's going on here? So it's riddled with plot holes. The entire movie is like at a 45-degree angle. Like it's shot like completely tilted, and it's just like, why? And again, like I said, it genuinely wasn't that bad the first half, but then it just all kind of starts to fall apart and cave in on itself. So let's let's just talk about it. So basically there's this guy, and he's part of mankind. Mankind has pretty much been completely wiped out and somehow turned back to like the primitive age, kind of like all the humans in this movie act like it's Planet of the Apes. Like they act like uh, just apes. They like beat their chest and go like ho ho ho, or like when they get like really excited or about something. And sometimes that's how they communicate or whatever. So there's this guy and a love interest, and this guy's dad dies, and then this guy's like, look, we're running out of food, we gotta go find some food. So he does that because he was inspired by his father's death, because it took him so long to get medicine and his father just died. So but the village elder is like, no, you can't go out there, there are demons, and the gods will take you away. So he goes out there, he meets these guys, and they're about to fight. The scene's really awkward. It's in like a really old IV'd abandoned like mini golf course, and they are about to fight, but they don't. He offers them food in exchange for them showing him the gods, and because they say they know where they are. So he goes there, he goes to this underground subway station, and then in comes the cyclones, and they're like this alien race, and they knock him out with these really corny like sci-fi laser guns. So they do that, they get the guy, and then they bring him to this like domed city. It was kind of cool. They like repurposed an entire city and like skyscrapers and stuff to like their own colony, basically under this big dome that's like meant to keep them breathing because they can't breathe earth air. So they bring them there, they put on these oxygen nostril things for the humans, and they lock him up. He keeps trying to escape, and in comes our two main antagonists, John Terrell Travolta and Kern, I think his name is, something like that. And they're like head of security and assistant head of security, and these two guys are just like bozos. Like the entire movie, they're so silly and so stupid. They like sometimes do some smart things, but these guys are supposed to be part of this alien race that are like that's like way more intelligent than humans. And humans supposedly lost to these guys in like 9 minutes of fighting. That's how superior they are. But they are just so dumb. So Teriel is trying to get off Earth, but then he can't because his higher ups say you're gonna stay on Earth because you slept with the Chancellor's sister or daughter or something. So he has to stay on Earth. He gets really pissed. And then there's this thing where there's like a shortage in the gold they're mining because they're trying to mine gold. They're all about like the Midas rush. They just really like gold, and that's why they're on Earth. The main antagonist, Teriel, John Travolta, tries to mitigate the profit loss problem by getting man animals where mankind's considered like a lower species that isn't intelligent, and he wants to teach them how to use mining technologies, and everybody's laughing at him. He's like, that's a joke, they'll never learn how to do that. They're just like dumb animals. And John Travolta doesn't care. John Travolta just like, he lets the main character go one time because the main character finally escaped successfully, and somehow lets him and 5 of his friends go and attach cameras to him because this is the point in the movie where it all falls apart. They have this idea where they're like, oh, this is how we'll get the humans to work for us. We'll attach these GoPros to them and set them free in the wild and see what they eat and see what their favorite food is. And once we know what their favorite food is, we can use that as leverage and we can dangle it in front of them. We can be like, ooh, look at this, your favorite food. You better get to mining. So that's their grand plan. And they set them loose, and the humans haven't eaten for like 3 days. So they eat like live rats, and just because they haven't eaten, they had to eat something. And the 2 bozo villains are just like, oh, humans love rats. We're just gonna get them back, scoop them back, and we're gonna give them rats, and then that's how we're gonna get them to work. And so they do that. They try that. They put the main character in like this intelligence beam machine that like shoots intelligence right into his brain, and he learns their language and he negotiates with them. They get the love interest from the beginning and put her in like this Paradise Falls Suicide Squad collar that like will explode if the John Travolta presses the button. So the main character is forced to work for them basically, but he learns all this stuff. He's like, guys, I learned all this stuff, we can escape. And everybody gets really motivated for some reason out of nowhere and just starts going. It was like such a forced scene. Everyone just like climbs up on the bars and goes like, yeah, he knows stuff. And so he tells them what he knows, and he's just talking about like triangles and stuff, and they're like, yeah, dude, triangles are cool, but how is that gonna like help us? So he uses his knowledge to figure out like codes and some forms of deception. The John Travolta teaches him how to fly one of their ships because he has to for the mining thing. So he learns a bunch about their technology, and then they go and they're forced to mine because the love interest has the suicide collar on her. But instead of doing that, they go to the Library of Congress and get gold bars, and instead of using their time mining, they're like planning their revolt, and they find like a hangar of F-16 fighter jets, and they're gonna use the nukes to like destroy the Cyclones' home planet, because apparently they're really affected by radiation, and any of it in their atmosphere will just destroy them. So they do that. They train these like primitive like 8 people to like fly F-16s in like a week. Then they fight back. It's kind of like a Star Wars scene, the way they're fight. It's like a Star Wars Independence Day scene, the way they're fighting back. The fighter jets are there. It's really silly. And then they use some leverage to get the sidekick guy to take the collar off the love interest, so they do that. And they continue with the attack, and then the main character and John Travolta fight, and he uses the collar to like blow off John Travolta's arm, and they capture him, and instead of killing him, they're gonna use him as like a bounty, because they succeeded in nuking the Cyclone home planet, and the home planet is like destroyed. They nuke the shit out of it. And then John Travolta is like in this cage, and they have evidence that he was the one that let the humans out and do it and allowed them to do all this stuff. And they say something like he's worth like a huge bounty because of that, so they're gonna keep him, and I guess like trade him for intergalactic credits. And the whole idea is they're like rebuilding humanity from the ground up after like their destruction. And it looks like the assistant antagonist is gonna kill the humans and let the guy out, but he betrays them. They're like neck and neck, like at each, not neck and neck, at each other's throats the entire movie. So that wasn't surprising. And that was pretty much it. That was the entire movie. If I had to say anything good about this movie, it's that it still wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, I feel like it gets a lot of hate because of the Scientology thing surrounding it, but I mean, it's still a really bad movie, but it just wasn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be, I don't think. I've seen like way worse. I've seen way worse movies. And at least it wasn't boring. It was entertaining. Like, sure, there were a lot of like slow parts, but it's not like nothing was happening. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves. It's just like when nothing happens. But this movie was at least somewhat entertaining. So yeah, that's what I got. Thanks for watching. Next time I'm gonna be using one of those magnets and like a really like a billion-mile long rope and throwing it into the Marianas Trench, and I'm gonna pull it up and see what I find down there. So yeah.